must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
And thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where I get to bring you the latest news from the continent of Africa. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and we'll just start with the news this afternoon. And we'll start today with Mali, where thousands of protesters took part in a rally in Mali's capital, Bamako, to call for closure ties with Russia. The rally follows days of diplomatic tension between Paris and Bamako after Mali's interim leaders acknowledged that they were in talks with the Russian mercenary group Wagner. The Malians who took to the streets on Wednesday were supporting the transitional government. It's under pressure from France and regional group ECOWAS to hold elections in February and to announce possible cooperation with Wagner. In March, the march was organized by the Yerewolo movement, which is opposed to the presence of French forces in Mali. Referring to the launch of the French military operation against jihadists in northern Mali in January 2013, its spokesperson Siriki Koyote told the AFP news agency that France and the international community had done nothing for 9 years, and whatever their presence has been in Mali has been without results, without security, without protection of people and property. And then we move on to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia's disaster management official has blamed the United Nations and rebels over the failure of more than 400 aid trucks to return from Tigray region. Mitiku Kasa said the United Nations had failed to look after their truck drivers and ascertain the reasons for not returning. He said the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF) was also to blame for the 428 trucks still stuck in Tigray after delivering the aid. Mr. Kasa did not specify the TPLF's role in the crisis. TPLF spokesperson Getachew Reda said fuel shortages, harassment of drivers at checkpoints, and a lack of cash because of suspended banking services were to blame. He asked the government to facilitate the delivery of aid and the exit of trucks from the region. The UN had said that out of the 466 trucks that had gone to Tigray to deliver food aid, 428 had not yet left the region. There is currently a communication blackout in Tigray, which has been devastated by a 10-month conflict between rebel and federal forces. We go to the Gambia, and Amnesty International has accused the Gambian President Adama Barrow of failing to repeal repressive laws that stifle press freedom in the country. The human rights group say the country had recorded more than 15 assaults on journalists in the last 4 years, according to its report released on Wednesday. President Barrow came to power in 2017 on the back of a campaign promise to right the wrongs of his predecessor, Yahya Jammeh. But Amnesty says oppressive laws curtailing human rights, including the rights of freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, have not been amended. Some state institutions, including the national security agencies, can monitor, intercept, and store communications for surveillance purposes without a court order. In 2018 ruling, the ECOWAS Court of Justice asked the Gambian authorities to amend the criminal laws in libel, sedition, and false news in line with the country's obligations under the international human rights law. We head over to Algeria, and the country has closed its airspace to all Moroccan civil and military aircraft. The Algerian presidency has said the move was announced in view of the continued provocations and hostile practices on the Moroccan side, according to the statement. This comes less than a month after Algeria cut diplomatic relations with Morocco. The decision was arrived at after a meeting of the High Security Council chaired by President Abdelmajid Tebboune. The move will only affect 15 weekly flights which link Morocco with Tunisia, Turkey, and Egypt, a source at Royal Air Morocco has said, and Reuters news agencies has quoted it. The source described the impact on RAM as insignificant and said the relevant flights could reroute over the Mediterranean. We go to Libya, and the Libyan commander Khalifa Haftar has taken a step that may enable him to run in a presidential election due to take place in December. General Haftar says he's stepping down from his military duties. He appears to be taking advantage of a controversial new law. It says officials must relinquish their posts in order to stand in the elections, but it guarantees that they can return to their old positions if they lose. The law, which was ratified by an ally of General Haftar, has been rejected by his opponents. Analysts say gathering tensions between rival camps have put the holding of Libya's elections in doubt. And we go to Tunisia. Tunisia's President Kais Saied has issued an order to extend the suspension of parliament, which includes the removal of the immunity of MPs, the president's office has said on its Facebook page. The statement also announced that Mr. Saied will carry out political reforms without elaborating. The president has been criticized for violating the constitution and undermining democracy in the country after he fired the prime minister and suspended parliament on the 25th of July. And then we go to South Africa, where the country's highest court has ruled that University of South Africa's plan to phase out Afrikaans as a medium of teaching is unconstitutional. In 2016, the university changed its English and Afrikaans dual medium language policy to English. The university said it did this to address imbalances of the past and because of low demand for courses in Afrikaans. The policy change sparked a 5-year battle with the mainly Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum, which mounted a legal challenge against the decision. UNISA is not the first South African university to face such challenges over its language policy. In 2019, the University of Pretoria also scrapped Afrikaans. Many have seen the language as polarizing, as it had been forced to black learners during the apartheid years and led to the Soweto student uprising in 1976. We go to the DRC, and the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo says it has arrested a Jordanian national for alleged ties to the Islamist militia in the east of the country. This comes amid concern that Islamist State group has been trying to strengthen ties with the rebel Allied Democratic Forces ADF, an Islamist armed group originally from Uganda. The ADF has been blamed for frequent attacks against civilians. The Reuters news agency says it has seen documents which confirm the arrested man was in charge of ADF's drones, although they suggested he was from Saudi Arabia. Although the rebel group has pledged allegiance to the Islamist State group, UN experts say they have not found conclusive evidence of close links between them. And then we head over back to Mali, where the country yesterday marked its 61st anniversary of the country's independence from France. On Wednesday in Kati, near Bamako, a military parade was held with the president of the transition, Colonel Assimi Goïta, in attendance. The celebration, however, comes at a time of political uncertainty for the Sahelian nation. Goïta assured that Mali will honor all its international commitments amid the controversy over the Malian military's alleged intention to hire paramilitaries from Russian private security firm Wagner. And then we come back to East Africa, this time to South Sudan, and the chairperson of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has revealed that over 100 civilians were massacred in the army's fueled violence in Tambura in August. In June 2021, the conflict between the two armed groups erupted, killing over 200 people and about 100,000 others displaced. That is according to United Nations. Yasmin Suka now states that it is the government in Juba that is fueling the conflict between the two communities in the area. In her ongoing address to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, Ms. Suka said some of the victims, mostly women and children, were raped and sexually violated before being murdered. This backs up the allegations made earlier by the state governor, suggesting that area politicians based in Juba are behind the killings that has been witnessed in Tambura region. And then we go to Mozambique, and a multinational military force in Mozambique has rescued about 87 women and children from a jihadist militant base in Macomia in the conflict-hit northern province of Cabo Delgado. Soldiers from the force combining Mozambican, Rwandan and troops from the other region located the base at around 1300 local time on Wednesday after a search in the forest of Kwiterajo. They rescued the 60 women and 27 children, 18 boys and 9 girls, and killed 5 militants who had been guarding the base, military sources said. All those rescued were taken to the police district command in Makomia. The search operation continues, with sources indicating the existence of another larger base in the Namaluko region. And that is the latest from the continent of Africa this afternoon. I think that the coming in of especially the Rwandan forces in Mozambique seems to have boosted the efforts that we had seen earlier from the Mozambican forces, who seems to have been run over by the insurgents there in northern Mozambique. And of course, there are also other forces from SADC countries that have contributed their troops to try and fight the insurgency in northern Mozambique. So a rescue of about 87 women and children, I think that is a good thing, and it continues. So that is some good news there. So I'm happy to hear that, and hopefully they can continue with the rescue efforts and restore some normalcy in the part of Mozambique. But you know, there's just more to it than just an insurgency group. There are other issues which the government of Mozambique must address. The government right now, and even the government to come later, must address some of these inequalities, some of these poverty-related issues, and an equal distribution of resources and economic marginalization and things like that. Those are things that provide for a ripe ground for an insurgency to come in and take advantage of the vulnerable young people there and recruit them, and now see what kind of mayhem they've been causing in northern Mozambique. So that has to be addressed. Otherwise, I think these forces that have been there from a few months ago have really done much to try to restore order in Cabo Delgado particularly. Now, let's go back to South Sudan, because this here was some breaking news. When I was coming, I think this person, where's that news from South Sudan? Hold on. Okay. So the chairperson of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan has revealed that over 100 civilians who were massacred this massacre was led by the army. This violence we've been seeing in Tambura village in Tambura has been, the army of South Sudan has been involved in this massacre. Interesting, or not really interesting, but I'm not shocked by this new revelations, but I'm just appalled. I'm just appalled. And I don't know if President Salva Kiir or Riek Machar or other leadership and stakeholders in South Sudan knew this is what was happening in South Sudan. How does the army that should be protecting the people be the same army that is killing and maiming and raping women and children and killing them? I think the leadership and in South Sudan are really failing the people of South Sudan and the country at large. Now, this new report by the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan, of course, have said this massacre, this chaos that we've been seeing happening in Tambura. No wonder the government has been very slow in responding to, addressing the issue of insecurity in this region. And in June 2021, the conflict between two armed groups erupted, killing over 200 people, and about 100,000 others were displaced. This is according to the report by the United Nations. Now, the UN Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan, the chair, her name is Yasmin Suuka, now states that it is the government in Juba that is fueling the conflict between these two communities. Shame on you, the government of South Sudan. How do you do this? How do you, if we were to go by this report to the United Nations, and I think a lot of these reports, it's not the first time that we're receiving a report on South Sudan being presented to the United Nations Security Council. We've seen time and time again, because there has been an ongoing there's always something to investigate and to report about South Sudan, because the country is it's a bit volatile and also not very stable. They're just trying to find their stability, but if the government is the one that is fueling the conflict between these two communities in the Tambura area, then now what? President Salva Kiir, what do you have to say for yourself? Riek Machar, what do you have to say for yourself? Because you were the first vice president, so you cannot escape responsibility, as well as the president, President Salva Kiir and others, and the 5 vice presidents that you have there, and other leaders in South Sudan. This is worrying. This is appalling. This is, I don't know what to call this. You cannot fuel a conflict that is only adding more misery to the people of South Sudan that are already miserable. They're struggling with the flooding right now. The people who were displaced and in camps are now homeless again. And these other insecurities that we've seen happening in South Sudan. And you're going to sponsor a conflict that is going to harm your people? What kind of government is this we have in South Sudan? How would you even call yourself a president? I don't know if you're directly linked to that, but you're the head of state and you cannot tell me that you don't even have information, even if other people are involved in this a conflict that has been ongoing. This is unacceptable. And according to this report, it is the government in Juba that has been fueling this conflict between these two communities in the area. What a shame. Now, in her ongoing address, still ongoing, to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, Ms. Suka says some of the victims, mostly women and children, were raped and sexually violated before being murdered. Like these women have been violated enough times in South Sudan. The women in South Sudan, the children in South Sudan, even young men and older ones as well. There's been a lot of violation to this population, to these poor people of South Sudan. And, you rape them, and then you sexually abuse even the children, and then after that, that is not enough, you murder them. That is what the army is accused of doing there in the recent conflict that we've seen in Tambura. And this backs up the allegations made earlier by the state governor in that county, in that state, suggesting that area politicians based in Juba are behind the killings. I don't know, I'm just annoyed. And hopefully, when I come back here tomorrow, we would have heard a reply or a response from the government. President Salva Kiir would have said something about this stunning new report that has been presented to the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva today. Actually, it was a breaking news before I came in here. And so tomorrow, hopefully, we'll get a reply from the president and the government of South Sudan, and they can explain to us and help us understand what is really going on, and if at all this report here is true. President Salva Kiir, I shall be waiting, personally. I shall be waiting because I really want to know what's really happening. So now there's been also another twist in what is happening in Mali, and I think I have been bringing you updates on the current situation. Right now, we have a transitional government in Mali after President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta was ousted last year in August. And so it's almost a year now. And the army general that is in power right now is, what do you call his name? Goïta. So yesterday, Mali celebrated 61 years of independence. And in that address, the military guy said that he's committed he's committed to honor all its international, commitments and obligations as Mali. And amid the controversy over the Malian military's alleged intention to hire paramilitaries from Russia private security firm Wagner, and during the 61st independence celebration, there were protests happening in Bamako, that is the capital of Mali, and a section of Malians are saying, you know what, we want our country to have a working relationship, a diplomatic tie with Russia. And yes, we are open to having the mercenaries come and help us in restoring, security in Mali. So they were protesting, but in support of the junta. And of course, this march was organized by Yerewolo movement, which has been opposed by the presence of French forces in Mali. And when you look at the history of France, and its former colonies here in Africa, and how that imbalance in relation is, you will understand why they even have a group that is opposed to the French, presence in Mali. Go Google that. Go find some information, and then you'll see if at all these concerns are grounded. But the protesters were saying they support Mali, and they, to work to enter into a deal with the Russian mercenary group. And that is what they want, because they're saying, French has been in the country since 2000. France and other EU countries have been in Mali since January 2013, and nothing much has changed. It has been 9 years without results. That is what they said, without security, without protection of people and property. And so maybe Russia will be the game changer as far as addressing the issue of insecurity in Mali is concerned. So this is also another diplomatic row that you see unraveling every day. And I think, was it about 2 weeks ago, France had announced that it intends to scale down its number of troops in Mali. So I think maybe that is what prompted, the junta, the military junta in power right now, to try to seek help elsewhere, because, Mali, as it is very overwhelmed. So maybe that was a miscalculation on French's part, but France is not happy. And over the weekend, I think they sent an official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to try to talk to, Mali over its intended engagement with Russia. But I don't know how those talks went, and so that I've not had any information about that. And so anyway, so people are protesting, and they're saying we've seen protests even before, as calling on France to stop meddling in Mali's affair. And Mali is a sovereign country, and it can decide on its own who it wants to have relations with when it comes to diplomacy and the bigger schemes of things, international relations here. It's interesting. We'll see how that will play out, and if at all Mali will indeed go ahead and work with this group from Russia, and what will that mean to France, which has been a partner with Mali for quite a while, and Mali is its former colony. How will that define its relationship with this country moving forward? Okay, and what else that I'd like for us to talk about? I guess nothing much. But in Libya, they are readying for an election towards the end of the year. And Khalifa Haftar wants to run for these elections, all right? And so he has decided that he will step down from being a Libyan commander, and so that he's able to run as a civilian. According to a new law that was passed recently, apparently, if he fails to clinch that seat, he can go back to being a general. I don't know. I think at this point, if Khalifa Haftar needs to push for reforms or whatever he's been doing and being part of the chaos he's been contributing to in Libya, then he should just stay being a commander. Him stepping down and vying as a civilian in the hopes that if he fails, he will go back to being a general, I think that could be a miscalculation on his part. All right, that could be a miscalculation on his part. If that is the route he wants to take to be a leader in Libya, then perhaps you should just continue with that, being a rebel, all right, being a renegade over there. But him now coming and stepping down as a military commander and running as a civilian, and thinking that he'll go back, I think that is a miscalculation on his part. But all we want is a stable Libya. So whatever it will take for the country of Libya to be stable and the people's lives to go back as it used to be, I think we should support that. So elections are scheduled for December, but we've been seeing a lot of wrangles and a lot of holdout groups still, fighting, and this has caused a lot of tension. So there's still some doubts, if at all, even these elections, if they will happen at all. But we'll see how that will work out. Okay, thank you so much for watching this afternoon. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. My name is Miriam Ogotu. Bye-bye for now.
must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.